Adrenaline, fueled by anger, has kicked in. Valentine's Day? What Valentine's Day? On the way to the car, I called my brother. Dude, 911 emergency call. Mom and Dad. Tell them to find Mark Lavallee's address and get over there. That kidnapped Linda and is going to hurt her. Have them call her parents, no questions asked. I just called the police, and I have to call the others. I hung up the phone and called Channel 6 News. Mark Lavallee got drunk at Morrison's, kidnapped a married woman, and is hurting her as we speak. Channel 8 is on the way. Get a helicopter up if you can. I repeated this to 2 other local TV stations in the Times-Observer newspaper. Okay, I embellished a little. They do it all the time, so they shouldn't mind. When I got to Mrs. Porter's, I carried the 2 kids to the car and called my dad. Did you find the address? Yes, and we're on our way. 2798 Maple. I also alerted Debbie Jameson. Debbie was their neighbor across the street and an assistant district attorney. Feisty little thing. Okay, I just picked up the kids and I'm heading over there. You guys can take them home until the dust off this is over. Have Debbie get search warrants for that guy's house and Morrison's bar. Both places will find drugs and possibly other substances. Apparently, this isn't the first time he's pulled this stunt, and each time it's been at Morrison. My cell phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Dim here. This is Sheriff McCall. You said Mark Lavallee hurt your wife? Yes, sir. He slipped her drugs at Morrison's bar, forced her into his car, and drove off. I tried to stop him, but 2 members of his crew, Barry McClure and Tim Jackson, stopped me, threatening physical harm. I asked Debbie Jameson, an assistant district attorney, for a warrant to search for drugs at his home and bar, but what I am most concerned about is saving my wife, or he uses physical force on her. I later learned that the first police cruiser arrived at Zan's castle less than 10 minutes later. It was surrounded by a 10-foot wall and protected by a massive steel gate. Celebrities love privacy. They pressed the buzzer at the entrance without ceasing. After 5 long minutes, a male voice answered, "Piss off. Don't you know what time it is? Police, open up immediately. If you don't have a warrant, go back to your favorite donut shop and call my lawyer." By this time, one of the policemen had climbed the wall with a rope, taking a megaphone in his hand. He shouted, "Open up, police, open up at once." Although the apartment buildings were far apart in this high-rent neighborhood, the sound obviously reached them. Lights came on in the neighboring houses. Curious neighbors in bathrobes and sweatsuits, TV vans, and other vehicles arrived. The street resembled a post-match traffic jam in a stadium. One of the TV vans had a cherry-picker-type crane on its roof, and it rose. Bright spotlight came on, illuminating the driveway and front door. On a small platform, a cameraman and reporter were filming a breaking news report on the alleged drugged assault of an NFL star. Believe me, the media would make a sensation out of it. I finally emerged, and, taking our 2 children in my arms to hand them to their parents, headed for the gate. "Get out of here!" growled an officer with lots of pigtails on his uniform. At the verbal barrage of demands to open the gate behind him, television camera followed me. "Al, no. My wife is in there. Why aren't you protecting her?" The officer looked at the camera and at me. "Get these kids out of here." That moment, Must realized that if he waited for the gate to open, it would only make his life harder. As soon as the gate opened, little Emma broke free and ran full speed toward the front door. They took the surprise cops and news crews a few seconds to recover from the shock. We all rushed after her. "Mommy, Mommy!" she screamed at the top of her voice as she continued to run toward the front door. "Mommy, where are you?" Emma, come back!" I shouted, following her. One of the cops held Tommy up so he wouldn't get distracted. Cop with a megaphone shouted through the noise, "Mr. Lavallee, come out with your hands above your head now." The front door opened and stepped outside. From the bright lights and chaos, he looked dazed and confused. He was wearing only boxers, no doubt to show off his perfect abs in a six-pack. "Mommy, where are you?" screamed Emma, dodging the Mommy! Linda appeared in the doorway, clearly disheveled in her blue dress. "Emma, what are you doing here?" "Mommy, we came to rescue you from that bad man." With small fists, she pounded the muscular thighs of the angry giant towering over her. One of the blows she unleashed on him inadvertently hit him in the groin, and he folded. He then punched her in the face, an annoyed look, and she flew backward, crashing into the wall. This act delighted all the onlookers who rushed through the open gate in cars. A television camera mounted on the crane captured the interior event. Linda's father, a former military man, reached over and delivered a karate kick to Pope's neck, hitting a defenseless man. "What kind of scum are you?" "Back off, old man," Lavallée mumbled back, gasping with exertion. I walked to the front door, exploding with indignation. I kicked the guy in the knee with all my might. He collapsed and groaned. Then I turned to Linda. "Get out of here now. Get in the ambulance." "What?" "There's nothing wrong with me." "No, you are. He drugged you with a date rape drug, and you are to be tested. You are a date rape victim." When she took a breath and opened her mouth to respond, I interrupted. "Or you are a dirty." A mother who, on national television, told her young daughter to often die. Choose now and choose fast. Fear and insight alternated in a millisecond on Linda's face as she surveyed the growing audience of cameras and people. She took Emma's hand and walked to the ambulance that arrived in the meantime. "Thank you for saving me, Emma." Epilogue. The cops took Mark Lavallée to the station and charged him with kidnapping, assault on a minor, and drug trafficking. They kicked everyone out of the precinct, put yellow tape around the entire perimeter, and posted guards mainly to make sure no one snuck in to seize the drugs on the spot. Debbie, my parents' housemate, woke up the judge, made him watch the breaking news footage on local TV, and got the cops to get search warrants for both the bar and S house. To everyone's surprise, various date rape drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy, were found at both locations. The national media erupted in a frenzy, not unlike the one caused by Tiger Woods and his infamous nighttime incident. Footage of Lavallée assaulting little Emma was spun endlessly, and it probably played a big part in the jury finding him guilty on all counts. Morrison's establishment was shut down. 2 crew members were arrested as co-conspirators and given suspended sentences. Channel 6 was particularly insistent in covering the story, posting an 800 number at the bottom of the screen for other wives and husbands to call with similar stories. They gave 11 more names to my attorney, who, after filing my lawsuits, drew up several class action lawsuits against his teammates, the team, Morrison's owners, and the NFL. Linda played the innocent victim for a while, claiming that must have bribed the barmaid to put something in her drink. The barmaid, of course, was nowhere to be found. I divorced her immediately. The heartless and quick way she dumped me left me no choice. She looked me in the eye and told me she had to go to the bathroom, even though she knew full well that her way was not to the bathroom, but to Thick's bed, cheating, and an unforgettable night of intimacy. Unforgettable intimacy she was fine with, though perhaps not quite in the way she had dreamed. The wheel of justice, as they say, turned slowly but surely. So when the judicial dust settled after a few years, I had money in the bank, paid out by all the villains who had contributed to the destruction of my marriage and other misery and torment. Mark Lavallée was kicked off the team after his prison sentence. By the time he got out of prison, he couldn't pass a physical on any team, mostly because he had trouble walking. Although his sentence wasn't that long, it seems the jailers watched a lot of TV, and the image of him assaulting little Emma inspired them to take special care of his legs, arms, and groin. Fortunately for him, after all the lawsuits were settled, he still had enough for a walker. I had no shortage of female attention, given my notoriety for standing up to the bad guy and my newly fattened bank balance. My only interest, however, was to nurture my children and raise them as best I could. With the luxury of a nest egg, I took a new job, where I only had to work half days, allowing me to devote all my attention to being the best father I could be to Emma and Tommy. After a while, Linda disappeared from sight. The lie about being victimized haunted her. She knew the truth, but the truth in this case did not set her. One Friday afternoon, as I dropped the kids off at her parents' house, she came out, standing a few feet away from me. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Jim, I'm so sorry I hurt you like this. You're the best man I've ever met in every way, and yet I tossed you aside like yesterday's newspaper. You didn't deserve it, and I have no excuses. I just wanted you to know that I realized how shabby and disgusting my behavior was for no reason at all. I'm really sorry." It was the first time she'd ever admitted she was wrong without any excuses, especially the "it was just one night" part, which she'd been holding on to for so long. It took me by surprise. "Thanks, I guess. Honestly, I never thought you'd understand. I have no idea what made you toss me aside like garbage last week when all I was doing was loving you to the best of my ability. It hurt. It still hurts. I will never celebrate Valentine's Day again. I'm sure you know that I hardly ever go on dates, even though I've gotten so many invitations I could shake a stick at them. I just don't trust any woman. It took me a year of counseling to accept a date invitation and believe that a woman would even show up at the time we agreed upon. I've never had sex with anyone, because all I see is you thinking I'm not good enough while your big-name athlete brings you to one ecstasy after another. Oh, Jim." I held up my hand. "Don't lie. Anything you say will be a lie. You wouldn't be setting me up if you didn't think your friend would give you a night of incredible intimacy in the blink of an eye that a mere mortal like me could never match. Actions speak louder than words. If you thought I was good enough in bed, you'd brush him off and come back to me. So please don't insult my intelligence or throw back what little we've regained in friendship." I sighed. "All I want to say is thank you for apologizing. Goodbye." Pressing her hands to her face, she shook her shoulders, turning around and walking away to her parents' house.